Billy Nando, by the way, something like that. It was that kind of, and then later on we just sort of changed that.
So I have the wonderful Ross Jennings of Haken with me today. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, Tristan. Thanks for having me on your show.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure. As we were just saying, it's been a while since we've last seen each other between a pandemic.
Yeah, it's been a strange time, but things are sort of coming back now, and we're on the road, which is a positive thing. First time back in Europe doing some sort of headline tour since 2019.
Great, man. It looks
Yeah,
like it's going absolutely incredibly. Like on social media, like everything is massive. It's great.
yeah, shows have been awesome. Yeah, we're just all pumped to be out doing this again, and obviously the official virus tour was postponed and then eventually cancelled. So we're just thrilled to be out here and just playing those tunes, which they were essentially designed for the live stage, and that those tunes are going down really well. And simultaneously, obviously, we just released our new record. And this tour has been a bit of a strange timing actually, because it kicked off, a few weeks before the record came out, and the only sort of music that was out there from Fauna was the singles. So the set list consists of just the singles, and I'm sure we'll be sort of coming back around next year and doing a proper Fauna tour.
This is the appetizer to the main course that's to come in 2024, right?
Yeah, somewhat. Yeah, it's a co-headline tour with Between the Buried and Me. So we're both bands are playing about 70 minutes. So it's okay. It's a good length set. But not as full-bodied as we would normally go out with. I was also another band called Cryptodira. I'm wearing their shirt at the moment.
Oh, sick.
And
Okay.
they're a new band to me as well. So it was really cool to get to know these guys. They're from New York, and they're playing sort of, I guess, Dillinger Escape Plan meets King Crimson sort of vibes. It's kind of
Okay.
interesting. Yeah, it's really cool. It's
Cool.
good to know what the kids are up to these days.
So I'll dive right into Fauna. So following on from the sort of double header that was Vector and Virus, how did you kind of choose the direction conceptually that you were going to go in after that?
We didn't really. I mean, what we've been saying really in all our interviews, and it's absolutely the truth, is that we went with there are no limits, no rules, no preconceived idea about what this album would sound like. We were pretty sure it was going to be eclectic and not focused like the Vector Virus musical theme was,
Mhm.
which is sonically very leaning on the heavier aspect of our sound. And there's plenty of that. I mean, I would have imagined whoever's watching this now would have heard the record, and they'll agree. Like, there's plenty of the riffage and the is ever present, but there's a lot more flavors in the production, and a few aspects that brought us there was the return of Pete Jones, our founding keyboard player, who had a major role in the writing process from day one, and that influenced where the sounds were going and the writing style, and also returning to Jens Bogren, our mixing engineer, Fascination Street Studios, who was responsible for mixing The Mountain and Affinity and the Restoration EP as well.
So what was the actual writing process like then? Because I read in one of your, I think it was a prog interview recently, that you guys went to Brighton and hunkered down and things like that. What was that like?
Well, before that, sort of the initial ideas of songs have to be formed, and they're normally done in clusters.
Okay.
So the majority of the material, I think, started with like little sessions that Pete and Ray and Rich may have had together as the three of them, or maybe Charlie. I mean, I know he played a big role in the majority of Elephants Never Forget, for example. Um, so he came up with that and bring it to the group. So yeah, we'd have these little cluster writing sessions within the band, and then yeah, that session that you mentioned, I think it was somewhere near Surrey, actually, not Brighton.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, we hired out a place for a week or so, and we basically spent a good solid 15 or so hours a day just focused on taking all these ideas, forming the structures and the vocal melodies, all bouncing off each other. I don't want people to get the impression that just because I'm the vocalist, I came up with all the melodies. This was a very collaborative effort, and that goes for all the elements, like just deciding where the sections of the song would fit in, and that everyone would have a say on these things. So yeah, we bounced ideas around, and yeah, spent that whole week. We just mapped everything out. It was, apart from lyrics, which would come later, but that was a crucial week in forming what you're now listening to as Fauna.
I think it must be interesting because there are so many personalities in Haken. So seeing all of them kind of coalesce and come into what Fauna is really, really fantastic.
Yeah, that's always been the case. We have a very diverse, well, everyone has a diverse taste in music and musical upbringing, and just all our experiences are so different, and so bringing all those elements together naturally forms this kind of thing, this very eclectic mix of styles and influences, and I love it. I mean, yeah, I can appreciate maybe having something like that so diverse. Maybe there's some things that people aren't vibing with, but um, keep an open mind, I say.
Well, that's kind of, leads me on to nicely the next point, which is, how did you come up with the idea of animals being the focal point of the concept? Was it kind of because you have a lot of variety?
We were talking about, well, first of all, we specifically didn't really want to do a narrative concept album like we have been. But we do like the idea of albums having a cohesive link, of some sort. And we were talking about totems. I know that the that we wanted to write a song for Richard's late father, and that's kind of spiraled the idea of maybe each song should have a totem and a spirit animal of some sort. And we ended up sort of writing Richard's father's song later, but Nightingale was like sort of the first song that we wrote for the record and finished, and lyrically as well. So once we had that sort of Nightingale track locked in, it sort of inspired us to think of other animals from that point, and other totems and other interesting things about the animal kingdom, which we felt we could write about, and things that could, I guess, inform ourselves about ourselves. If that makes sense. What can the animal world tell us about the human world? And that's sort of where we were coming from.
But it also sounds like, it draws from a lot of personal experience as well in the song, using an animal as a metaphor, for example.
Yeah, there's certainly elements of that for sure. Yeah, we like to be able to make it relatable in that sense. I find it easier to write that way, stuff that's personal to me. I actually find that a lot easier than writing about mermaids and whatever else, cockroaches. No, it definitely helps. And obviously, the most powerful one was the one about Peter Henschel, which I didn't pen the lyrics for that. That was all in Richard's hands. Naturally, that's appropriately. But yeah, beautiful tribute to a great man.
Do you know what? I really love the fact that it's the last track on the album because I feel like it ends it on such a poignant moment.
Yeah, we played around with a lot of different running orders. You know, it wasn't always going to be at the end, but then I think we arrived there. We felt exactly as you described that. Yeah, it felt like a fitting ending to us.
How did you decide on which animal to feature then? Like that it was going to be that sort of totem.
Yeah. Well, we had a whole list actually. We were brainstorming this when we were out on the road in US earlier last year. And we just whittled it down. So we had this list of different animals and things about these animals that were sort of interesting to us. And I particularly went through them one by one, did some research, and tried to find a hook in there that could link it to the human world, which would be an interesting sort of thing. And I think that's how we landed with the 9 animals in the end. I think there was a 10th track that we dropped. We'll probably shelve for a future album, but yeah, and there's a few animals that we left behind. Who knows if they'll ever resurface. But,
so what about lyrics? When it comes to lyrics, what's your sort of process?
I start phonetically.
Really?
It's really important for me that the voice is an instrument first and foremost. I'm not always at first too focused on what the words are and what they're saying and meaning, and then they're later formed, and then I start putting the meaning in, and I'll change things for it to be cohesive and coherent and make sense and say something. So it's a bit of a process really, but it does start with phonetics.
I guess I didn't even think that would be the way. So do you kind of like not say gobbledygook, but just kind of like just anything that kind of comes in?
It usually would be gobbledygook, really. No, honestly, I'm trying to think of an example. Yeah, so like the chorus for the Elephants Never Forget. I think I was singing something like Billy Nando's or something like that. Billy Nando, Billy Nando, by the way, something like that. It was like kind of, and then later on we just sort of changed that for that better way, another way, a better day. You know, the later forms to find the right words that fit.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah.
yeah, but that's the process really. Yeah, I could spend months on these though, when putting these things together, because you got to find the right words with the right sounds, which roll off the tongue rhythmically and works with whatever everyone else is doing. So yeah, it's just a crazy puzzle.
I was gonna say nice and easy. What was it like when Pete kind of came back into the fold?
Well, because Pete's got his own style on the piano, and sound design. So it was just interesting to hear his ideas, and in demo form, to see where that might take us. And it just was a natural fit, really. You know, being an original member and someone we've been in touch with the whole time anyway. He's been a friend of ours ever since and continued to be so. even when he wasn't in the band, and so we knew what he was capable of, and it just all clicked together so naturally. Really, it's um, being in the room together and putting this music together, like we spoke about in the writing week. Um, it just became obvious that everything was clicking.
What about the sound design aspect of it? How does that sort of like play into it?
Well, these are sort of embellishments that Pete would go away with later and sort of present to the band, and so really it's his genius of whatever he comes up with on his own, and makes a sonic tapestry that works with all the instrumentation. And
Absolutely. So going to the amazing album cover, um, I love the fact that there's so many Easter eggs in this, but can you sort of lift the lid on a couple of them?
yeah, well, I mean, maybe. First of all, for those not aware, this is the work of Dan Goldsworthy. um he's not necessarily someone who was known in the prog metal world, but definitely the thrash metal world, and someone that Charlie came to know and use on his solo record Tiktaalica.
Mhm.
And we were blown away by that work, so much that we wanted to use him on this record, and we gave him access to lyrics and demos very early on, so he was able to sort of really embrace what we were trying to achieve with this record, and it translated so well into his artwork, because he really made it as busy as the music is. And,
Yeah.
I think it's a perfect fit, really. But we are all about Easter eggs here at Haken HQ. And I can certainly say, like, the wallpaper behind our human ape there is littered with Easter eggs, and you can find clues to the band members and some other Haken songs. What can I reveal? I'll reveal my one. Why not? So I have a song on my solo album called Violet, and you will see on the wallpaper some violets. So that was the reference to me
Oh, cool.
in the wallpaper. There's a canary yellow there somewhere, and
Oh, of course, yeah.
or yellow canary, I should say. But to me, like, I think the fun part is giving the listener, the product, and it's almost like a puzzle in the daily newspaper. You can sort of immerse yourself in and try and crack the codes.
And if you get all of the Easter eggs, then you get hired by like MI5.
Sure, why not? Let's promise not.
So it's obviously been 10 years since the mountain. And when you look back at kind of everything that you've accomplished during your, time in Haken, what are some of your most memorable moments if you had to kind of pinpoint a couple?
Yeah, well, the mountain opened up huge doors for us, because when we were writing that record, we felt back then like, oh my god, the music industry is a struggle. And that's kind of what inspired the struggle of life. And in many ways we're still sort of slowly making our way up this ladder. I feel like we're playing the long game to the top. um and but really the journey is the best part. Who wants to be at the peak of the mountain when all you got to do is come down? We're really enjoying the journey up the mountain at the moment. We've done some pretty cool cruises. We've met some of our heroes who enjoy our music. We've been hired by some of our heroes, namely like the Shattered Fortress tour that
Oh yeah.
we were involved, or the majority of us were involved with. Um, And just being able to do this, is a blessing, really, isn't it? But yeah, not everyone gets to do this, and to be able to hire a tour bus like the one I'm in now
Yeah.
and go across Europe and play in venues that are full up, and it's a real blessing. So thank you everyone, really.
You know, Haken songs really kind of connect with fans in a different way to a lot of prog, I think.
Even though our music's quite intelligent,
Mm.
I like to think that there's an emotional pull in a lot of the songs, and I can see that. There's I can count many shows where I've seen people in tears on the front row. They've just been overwhelmed by it all. So it's special, really.
Absolutely. What does Fauna mean to you personally as a record?
To me, it's the start of a new era for the band. Um, it represents everything that we've been trying to achieve up to this point, but also where we're heading next. It feels like it's it's all the musical elements that we stand for in one record. I've seen it described as sort of like a greatest hits with new material. I, I never considered that before I heard it, but I'd agree. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it'll be great to see some of the songs performed live when you guys hit London, which is pretty soon, I think, 2 weeks' time or something.
Yeah, London is the 26th of March, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're making our way through Europe back to our home city. Yeah, can't wait. That's gonna be a milestone show for us at the Shepherd's Bush. That's like a bucket list venue.
Awesome. Excellent. Well, I'll be there. Maybe not front row crying, but I'll be there.
Looking forward to that. Perfect. No, yeah, hope to see you there and many other people there.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to have a chat. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.